This is going to be a short video. By now, I have discussed all the rares and mythics. I have shown a bunch of Brawl, MTGO, tribal decks, gone through all the tribes, gone through the 5 Elder Dragons, think about how they're going to fare in Commander. And then I've got a small number of build arounds to discuss. Most of them overlap with previous content. This should not be a long video. I've already talked about Arcadis. I really like Arcadis. M19 just by itself is coming in with a bunch of defenders. There are 7 defender creatures in M19. Besides these, 4 of them are going to rotate with Guilds of Ravnica. But yeah, I really want to build this deck. This is going to be a ton of fun, man, or woman. A ton of fun. I've already discussed Arcadis and what it's doing. I just want to mention here, you've got a 2-drop Wall of Mist, 0/5, so it can hit for 5. You have a 1-drop Wall of Vines, and it can hit for 3 with the effect of Arcadis. It's got reach. Then you've got the Gargoyle, which is a reprint. I think I remember this card in Avacyn Restored at least, and it's a 3/3. Okay, so when it loses defender, it'll hit for 3, but it can also defend pretty well. So when you chump block with Wall of Mist or Wall of Vines, you don't do anything as long as it doesn't get taken out. When you chump block with Gargoyle, it hits for 3. That's actually pretty good. And then you pay 3 more, and it can lose defender and become a flyer. I really like this card, especially because when you build your Arcadis deck, you're going to want some versatility, and I think the Gargoyle gives you that versatility. Then the Suspicious Bookcase, love the title, love the artwork. Can hit for 4 with Arcadis, and then for 3 and you tap it, target creature cannot be blocked this turn. That's really good, because I think what this is telling me is I'll put a couple of creatures that don't have defender at all. They're kind of like my alternate win con in case my defender or win con gets disrupted, and I can make those unblockable. That's really good. Now this is going to be a summer deck in my opinion, unless GDR, Guilds of Ravnica, in the fall is coming in with a bunch of other defenders. I know, for example, Cans of Tarkir came with a really strong defender sub-theme. I love the defender cards that came out of that set. If that's the case with GDR, with German Democratic Republic, then this is going to be a deck that keeps on being played. If not, it's a summer deck. There's clearly a blue artifacts deck in M19. There may even be one in Limited. Skilled Animator can turn one of your artifacts into an artifact creature 5/5. For as long as it remains on the battlefield. I like this uncommon a lot. Scholar of Stars, it's more for the Limited because it's a 4/3/2. It would be even way better if it was like a 2/1/1, but it isn't. And when it enters the battlefield, if you control an artifact, you get to draw a card. Nice. Gearsmith Prodigy, somebody on Reddit pointed out that it's half the artwork with some other card in the set. You can put these two together vertically, and it makes, I think it's the Thopter that I showed earlier when I was doing the Brawl decks and I went through Artificers. I showed the Thopter already. That Thopter's artwork and this dude or dudette are in the same piece of artwork. I really like that. That's very creative. I love it when Magic does that. So it gets +1/+0. So it's a 1/2 if you've got an artifact. I like it a lot, and it's even a common. Love the common symbol, by the way. Clearly a milling deck. There may even be a milling deck in Limited. That would be really fun for me, not for my opponent. I've already talked about Patient Rebuilding. I think it takes a lot of... it's too late in the game for it to be super effective. It's still a really cool effect. Especially the part about drawing a card for each land card. Put into the graveyard. Now, in this particular video, I'm not giving you the general introduction of all the other things that I've talked about, because hopefully you'll be watching the videos in the playlist before this one. The Great Old Millstone, a great card. I think it was originally in Antiquities, and I even think I own one before all the reserve list buyout crazy things happened. I actually got one. So it's here for milling. And Psychic Corrosion is a great enchantment. I love it. It's only an uncommon. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. I love it that Wizards is doing this each opponent thing. One of your opponents, all opponents, because then that goes to Brawl, it goes to Commander, goes to just casual multiplayer. This card, Psychic Corrosion, is an all-star uncommon. It's probably not going to be, I mean, milling has never been a competitive deck. This thing is not going to be in any one of those decks. But for a Johnny casual deck builder like me, this is love at first sight. Psychic Corrosion, love it. More milling. The Spectre is a 4/1/3 flyer. And when it enters the battlefield, target opponent will discard a card. And whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses life. Now, discarding cards is more like a prison strategy, but it can go into a milling deck. One of the deserts, when you sack it for 2, your opponent can put the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, so it's a milling land. It's going to cycle out. Compelling Argument is also going to cycle out in the fall. For 2-drop, sorcery, target player puts the top 5 cards of their library into their graveyard. So basically, there is a milling deck in Standard now. Once M19 comes out, it could live past the summer. Most likely, it'll be a summer thing, and that's going to be cool. For Reanimation, you get the Skeleton reprint. Great for new players to understand how this works. And then the Stitcher is a great uncommon. It's already a 1/1/1. When it enters the battlefield or dies, you can self-mill, and then you can do your reanimation. I said milling, but it's not. This is a self-mill for reanimation. Then also more for reanimation, Rise from the Grave, which I'm comparing with Unburial Rites, the great Unburial Rites from Innistrad. And I think this is a very good card. I think it really is. It matches Unburial Rites on the casting cost and the type of card. So they're both sorceries at 5. In the case of Unburial Rites, the best trick for it is to drop it into your graveyard and cast it for 3 white for flashback. But if you don't, for 5, you can cast something that has a CMC considerably higher than 5, or it's just a gigantic super mega bomb. In the case of Rise from the Grave, you can do the same thing, and the creature also becomes a black zombie. I mean, you can even have a zombie lord on the board this summer from Amonkhet and boost it. So I really, really like Rise from the Grave. I think it's a fantastic uncommon, and I do want to build a reanimation deck with Rise from the Grave this summer in Constructed, because really I want all 4 of them. There's also a Gain Life deck, and I would say it's around Resplendent Angel, which is a mythic. I love 3-drop angels. There are very few of them. Most angels are 4 drops, 5 drops, and higher. And so, for example, when you're building a Lyra Dawnbringer deck, like I was earlier this summer, I had to go into Avacyn Restored because Avacyn Restored has 4-drop angels. There really aren't that many. So when you're going to 3, yes, just that on its own is rare enough. I'm not sure it's mythic, but it's rare enough. So it's a 3/3/3 flyer, so it's already square. And then at the beginning of each end step, if you gain 5 or more life, you kick out a 4/4 white angel token with flying and vigilance. Then there's a 6 activation cost, mostly in white, where this thing gets +2/+2 and lifelink. I mean, this is a really, really good card. This is a fantastic mythic. It comes in early. You can set it up with all these gain life cards. You can just make sure that each turn you gain at least 5 life. So each turn you get your 4/4 token. You're only getting 1 per turn. This is not legendary. So when constructed, you can have 2 angels and you can gain 5 life, and each one is giving you a token. This is a really, really good card in my opinion, and my Johnny heart. I'm in love with this card. I do want to build a life gain card, and I'm just going to show you just from M19 all the life gain cards that you can use. You've got a Johnny, which I discussed before. I think when I talked about the cat deck, also when I talked about soldiers, even though soldiers I don't think it's a deck, cat is a deck this summer. It's going to get pumped like crazy from the gain life that you're going to do. It doesn't go with the angel, it goes by itself and gets big. Then Ajani's Welcome. It's a fantastic enchantment. It's a 1-drop. Sorry, I have to sneeze. Or cough. And then maybe sneeze as well. Hold on. In the case of Ajani's Welcome, it's a 1-drop enchantment. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life. That's good. That's good. Then the Chaplain's got lifelink. I love the artwork as well. It's a common. I love these lowly commons. I guess because I'm a commoner. Then the Dwarf as a 4/2/4 is also a limited card. When it enters the battlefield, you get 1 life for each creature you control. That's okay. Then Revitalize is your like, okay, nothing else is happening. I got 4 Revitalize in my deck. I'm going to gain at least 3 life every turn that I drop it. And I'm going to get a card. I think it's a really good common, and especially in the life gain deck that somebody, at least I would like to build with the Angel. Hopefully the Angel will not become a money card, but I have a feeling that it will. More gain life stuff. The Mare, there's a Mare cycle, and the 2 of the Mares can help this deck, which is wonderful. The white one and the artifact creature one. So the white one cannot be blocked by red creatures, and when it enters the battlefield or becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you gain 3 life. That's good because there's going to be at least the turn when it comes in, you can set it up for your Angel to kick out a token. You drop this and you figure a way to get in 2 life through something else, and you're done for that turn. Diamond Mare is a 2/1/3. You're going to pick a color. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen color, you're going to pick white for your life gain deck. You're going to gain 1 life. That's great. This thing just gives you that extra 1 life to get to 5. Then Fountain of Renewal, also a 1-drop. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. Again, you're setting up this deck to have these incremental gains in life, and you're going to figure out each turn how to get to 5 to get your token. You sack it for 3 and you draw a card. I'm going to want to keep it, but yeah, that's a nice clause in case you've gained all the life you needed. You're ready to go to town the next turn. Hopefully you're not going to get board wiped, and then you sack it and you get your card out of this. The alternative win con with Liliana's contract, I already talked about it before, is a summer thing. Unless German Democratic Republic, GDR, Guilds of Ravnica, comes in with a bunch of demons, which I'm not expecting that to be the case. You have just enough demons right now to put in a deck. They're all heavies. They are 4 or 5 drops. But still, all you need is 4 or more demons with different names to win the game off of Liliana's contract. Requires setup. It's a 5-drop. You're going to want to disrupt the living daylights out of your opponent. I think it's a good 1 versus 1 card. I don't think in a table of Commander you can take 3 different people with 3 different decks and host them so bad that you can cast Liliana's contract and pull the win con. I think this is a Johnny Summer constructed deck. Now you've got a second mana greed hoster. You already have Blood Sun from Rivals of Ixalan. All lands lose all abilities except mana abilities. That kills all your man lands, all the things that can destroy lands, like a Wasteland, which is not in standard, but I'm just mentioning it as an example. Ghost Quarter, is an example in Modern. And then Alpine Moon lands your opponent control with the chosen name, so you can only hit one land, lose all their abilities, and become add 1 mana of any color. It's only really a specific named land. Your big critters, dude, Goreclaw is fantastic. Look at all the big critters this thing can enable, okay? Even after you lose all the big critters in Kaladesh and Amonkhet in the fall, regardless of whatever big critters come in with the Ravnica 3 GDR, and I've put in little brackets the number of them that are legendary, because you may want to only enable legendaries and have them all be legendaries and play on the legendary blade from Dominaria. You may want to do something legendary. I don't really know. You may want to do something with historic. So I'm highlighting the number and then also how many of them are legendary. In white, 7, 3 legendary. Blue, 6, 3 legendary. Black, 14, 7 of them legendary. Red, 19, 2 of them legendary. And green, 21, also 2 legendary. Multicolor, 14, 8 are legendary. Artifact creatures, 5, with 1 being legendary. And Joda is the only one that I could find of the big critters, because it's a 1 white, blue, red. It doesn't get the full 2 benefit. That does not get helped by Goreclaw. I think Goreclaw is just Johnny Heaven. Okay? I don't think it's going to be in any competitive decks, but I think Johnnies of the world, casual Johnnies of the world, will unite and love this card, and I'm one of them. I also love Druid of Horns. It's a 4/2/3, and it's all about auras. There's a bunch of good red auras that I've used in the Valduk deck. I think a red-green auras deck with Druid in it and Valduk in it is going to be really fun, and I definitely want to build that. Whenever you cast an aura spell that targets Druid of Horns, you get a 3/3 green beast creature token. That is really, really good. M19 is coming in with 2 of them on green, and there's already the red ones from before. There isn't, that I could see, a single red enchant creature aura in M19, but that's fine. We already have a bunch of them in standard. I got them all in my Valduk deck. They're ready to go. Paper and online. So Oakenform, 3-drop, enchant for 3/3. Great. Talons, 2-drop, enchant for 1/1 trample. And then you can recover it for 3 mana from your graveyard to your hand. Enough said. Scapeshift is here because it's a great reprint for players who want to have it. It is not currently, that I could tell, a competitive deck. It used to be one. If I remember correctly, Valakut is banned in Modern. I did not check, but Scapeshift goes with Valakut. You figure a way to sack a bunch of mountains, and then each one of those mountains hits for 3 to a player with Valakut, and you win the game. Sorry, I hit too fast. Yes. Then, in the case of Crucible of Worlds, it's more like a Commander All-Star, and I really love the way Commander has expanded. I even see Commander as a really growing format, which is not the case in my opinion with Modern. Cost has made Modern into a rich person's game, in my opinion, being a peasant. Legacy and Vintage were already there. And there are peasants who try to play all those formats, but then they're in some kind of saving plan, which is stupid, and I'm not going to play it. And that's why I love Commander. So the Gitrog, which is a mythic rare from Shadows over Innistrad, the Gitrog Monster, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever 1 or more lands are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you draw a card. So the second clause is the one that's really good. You can sacrifice Gitrog unless you sacrifice a land. So if you need to sack a land for Gitrog, and you also may get to play an additional land on each of your turns, and you've got Crucible of Worlds on the board, your graveyard is another source of lands, and you're going to need it for Gitrog. So that's great It's on 1,600 decks in EDH Rec. Nothing to laugh at. That's a great number. And then when you look at the top cards in those decks, sure, Crucible of Worlds is on 59% of them. So that's what I wanted to mention about that. Then there's the whole extra turns thing. Somebody's going to want to build it. It's a very Johnny thing. I used to like it when I was a younger player, where I've been playing less than I have so far. And there are two cards that are not going to rotate that would go into an extra turns deck. Karn's Temporal Sundering and Time Stream Navigator. As I mentioned before, I think in the previous video, Magistrate Scepter requires a ton of mana to set up unless you have a way to drop a counter on it from somewhere else. In Modern, you can do Proliferate. I think it's Proliferate from Scars of Mirrodin, where you can put extra counters. I don't see an easy way in the current standard to drop extra counters on the Scepter. And if you don't, you're talking about 15 mana to get your free turn. I think you can get it easier from Karn's Temporal Sundering and Time Stream Navigator. I'm not going to go in depth into these. I'm just showing them. If you want to pause the video, you can read the other two cards carefully. And we're done. Thank you. I hope you're enjoying this.